All right, we're live. So we're streaming from X, formerly known as Twitter, YouTube, our both YouTube channels, Isaac T. Ruiz and the Maverick Times YouTube, as well as Facebook from the Maverick Times page. Welcome to the Maverick Times podcast, episode number 70. Today we're discussing the race for Texas 23rd Congressional District, one of the largest and most complex districts in our country, stretching from San Antonio to West Texas, all the way down to the border, to U.S.-Mexico border here in Eagle Pass for all of our audience. The district sits at the center of national debates on border security, infrastructure, water access, veteran services, and federal accountability. Our guest today is Keith Barton, a Republican candidate for Congressional District CD23. He is a U.S. Marine veteran, a father, and a first-time congressional candidate challenging incumbent Congressman Tony Gonzalez in the Republican Party. Keith says he is running to bring a stronger border enforcement, family court reform, fiscal discipline, and what he describes as real accountability in Washington, D.C. Let's bring him on. Keith, thank you for joining us here at the Maverick Times podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. So I guess before we get started with the questions, it's kind of interesting how we kind of got in touch and everything. I know I told you about Tony Gonzalez and all that stuff. So we got a lot of good questions here to talk about. I know that Tony is an interesting congressman, to say the least, right?
Yes, sir.
But let's go ahead and get started. I know there's a lot of people eager to see what you bring to the table. So for listeners who may have been hearing your name for the first time, who is Keith Barton and what motivated you to run for Congress?
Well, as you said in the intro, I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. I'm a Mustang. So I started recon, then I was flying Huey helicopters, then I became a logistics officer and foreign advisor. And I've been doing logistics ever since. So in reality, I'm an operator. And that's the biggest thing. When I was looking at District 23 and the actions that were being taken were not being taken from an operator mindset, which is the only thing District 23 needs right now, is somebody who can get things done without asking for lots of money from Congress. And that's the problem, because District 23 usually does not get a lot of money from Congress, but there's so much waste and there's so much inefficiencies with how things are done. And I know that for a lot of people, it's a lot of freshman congressmen, it's hard to actually get things done because they just go straight towards the budget. But that's the difference with me, is because I am an operator, we can get so much done just by me getting people in the same room. So I looked at that, and it's just a recall for service. And I knew, I kind of went through all the issues that I wanted to do. And I said, you know what, 6 years. I can get this done in 3 terms. I could probably get it done in 4 terms and then have another term just to complete efficiencies. But there are just some basic fundamental things that we should be helping the people within District 23 get that they're not getting right now. And they're being ignored. They're completely being ignored right now, and it's not okay. And so, yeah, like I said, call for service again. Time to help.
Awesome. District 23, we don't get too much funding down here. I know there's a lot of need. I'm from Eagle Pass, so Maverick County alone, I frequent Del Rio, Valverde County, and they're just as needed as just as us, our neighboring county, man. They have a lot of resources needed. So yeah, I hear that. You describe yourself as a Marine veteran. Can you walk us through your military service and explain what experience shaped your leadership and decision making?
Oh, for sure. So I was like I said, I was a recon Marine first. That's that almost special operations type background without being special ops, because the recon Marines are owned completely by the Marine Corps. So, but I've seen that hard work. It was not an easy thing to earn. And I made sergeant. And when I left, I was the headquarters platoon sergeant, and then commissioned. I had my flight contract for a long time before I ever even commissioned. And I went to flight school. So, first we go to the basic school, which only Marine Corps has, and it's literally a 6-month leadership training course. and it's intense. It really is. And then when you go to flight school, and then I don't know if you know anything about naval flight school, that's not a cakewalk either. Out of flight school, I earned the right to fly the Huey helicopter. Amazing platform, old school. We got new ones now, but one of the other things within that aircraft is there's 4 people in that aircraft. So it's still leadership in the air. It's not a single piloted aircraft. You got 2 crew members in the back. You are coordinating on all 4 corners of that aircraft while you're flying, while you're fighting it. And while you're a pilot, you have a regular job too. And I was always in the logistics department. I was in operations, then went to logistics department. And that's really where my real logistics experience really got going. And then my helicopter went away. I switched to become a logistics officer and finished up my training. So again, another school. Continued on with all that logistics operational training. So now I've seen ground, I've seen air, now I've seen combat service support and coordinating from 36 units sometimes at once across the country, right? And then that's a big step. And then I went to Afghanistan as a foreign advisor. I should backtrack. I did deploy as a pilot too. I went on what's called a Marine Expeditionary Unit, so I flew as a pilot. And then, but when I went to Afghanistan, I was a logistics advisor to the Afghan National Army. And we're not talking, being on a ship and kind of coming in. We were talking 6 days a week. We were working with Afghans on their base or outside the wire. Were we safe with our Afghans? I would say for the most part, yes. With the other Afghans, you never knew, right? So you were always on high alert while trying to use an interpreter to teach complex tactics and logistics outfits and concepts, which was very challenging. It absolutely was. Another beautiful thing of what I got there is I got to fly drones in combat too, and that was pretty
Nice.
cool. Yeah, very cool. And then I got out. I got out in 17, and I've worked for some really big companies. I worked for my first job when I got out of the Marine Corps was Walmart distribution. Went to Mobile, Alabama, and helped open a 2.6 million square foot building with 1,100 employees in it. That's big boy logistics. 500 lifts in one building, 3/4 of a mile long. A lot of coordination there. And then I took a promotion and I became what's called site manager for a company called Dyer Aerospace. And we provided all the logistics support for Airbus, building their A320 and A220 aircraft. So I had 179 employees working for me. 29 of them were managers. Nearly 24-hour operations, 7 days a week out of 3 sites. A lot of coordination. And then, and that's what logistics is. I mean, it's operator mindset. And then I came here. Now I work for Holt Cat. And if you don't know Holt Cat, you're not paying attention, right? Owner of the San Antonio Spurs in the construction field. But really, what this gives me is, in my line of work, I'm a cost center. I don't create revenue for a company I'm working for. I actually cost them money. So my way of saving money is through efficiency, which is exactly what the government needs. Government's not a revenue creator either. It's just taxes, right? But we have inefficiencies everywhere. And so I'm an expert at this point of root cause analysis, right? There's a lot of times that people put band-aids on everything. When you could just fix the simplest thing, you get second and third order corrective effects that affect so many different areas. Sometimes it affects so many areas you can't even estimate the amount of savings that are going to come from it until you get further into the process. But that's what root cause analysis gives you. And that's something none of my opponents have. And you can't fake being an operator. You can talk like it, get some talking points, but when you get in that room, everybody's going to know you're not an operator unless you really are one. And it takes a long time to become one. And yes, that's what I bring. I'm not worried about a lot of national issues. I'm going to have to vote. I'm going to have to probably co-sponsor some bills. There's 2 things that I want to do personally that will help the country. My main focus will always be District 23 because that's the whole reason I'm running. There are these simple, high-cost logistics issues that need somebody that can do it. And they're not being done right now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people, especially here in Eagle Pass, Maverick County, can contest to that and say that, hey, they're overlooked. We only get any attention from the congressman whenever there's a photo to be taken. And it's a little difficult where, we lack a lot of resources that we need. The city, the county, also outside of our county, in the outskirts of the county, north side of it, of Maverick County, you have the big water issue with Quemado that
Mm-hmm.
is hurting right now for water. So yeah, we need a problem solver is what we need here in District 23.
I'll tell you this, Lewis. Every day I wear steel-toed shoes, a high-vis vest, and a bump cap every single day. I'm in the weeds, even now. So that wouldn't change. I'm going to get in there. I'll get dirty.
This is the first time you run for Congress or for
Correct.
public office. I'm sorry. What convinced you that this moment in this district required a new candidate?
It just goes back to I thought about local, but it wasn't a big enough arm. I read, I did a lot of reading, and there's plenty of very, very good people at the local level already trying to fix this problem. But what they don't have is the true DC support to put it all together. And so I looked at it and I said, and it's not being cocky. It's just, all right, hey, I know I got this experience. I think I can bring something to the table. And I don't have to be, and that's the other beauty about being an operator. I don't have to be a subject matter expert. I have to know how to bring people together, look at the problem, and we talk through it as a group. And then we literally agree on whose action is what based on how much money. And that's just exactly how business works. That's exactly how logistics works. Man, Isaac, can you imagine if the government as a whole ran that way? It'd be crazy. It would be crazy. But that was it. I realized that even a freshman congressman who knew how to do that, how to lift the lever of being a congressman, just to make people get in a room and talk, could do a lot. And so yeah, that was the final thing. I was like, okay, I'm doing this.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So some questions about directly the Congressional District 23. So Texas 23rd District is geographically, it's massive. It's politically diverse. From your perspective, what are the top 3 issues facing residents today?
So it's kind of 3.5. So I'm gonna put border and border towns together. Okay. So, and that is the first priority. Okay. So awesome. We have significantly reduced the number of illegal crossings, right? So that is working. But we are also seeing an uptick in Terrell County, right? Of this, because it's not complete. So my support for the border would be from a Marine Corps mindset. It's a defensive position. It needs constant improvement. It needs defense in depth, which we know that Holman's trying to do, but he needs continued support doing that. We're talking about more funding for law enforcement, but more importantly, while we're still trying to figure out how we do these physical barriers, they need ISR, they need surveillance for everything from cameras to drones. Okay, so that's the border. Support border security. They're doing an amazing job, but they need somebody on the ground that actually with them, not thinking about the border in between elections, but thinking about it at all times. But then the real priority is the towns. And in logistics, well, we've never seen this before, right? So in logistics, we take a process that kind of matches and we'll adjust it. And so in my view, these border towns need to be treated like natural disaster areas. That's the same process. We know how to do that, right? We've done it so many times. So let's apply it to these towns. So security, more police funding. Absolutely. That is going to be a cost. There's no way around it. It has to be secure. But then there's infrastructure. Okay. There's been a lot of broken things that are not fixed, right? Just like I'm hearing about a wall made of containers instead of having a real wall. Oh my goodness. Seriously. Or the Shelby Park issue, right? That's got to be made as a priority. But a lot of people will just throw money at this problem without diving into the details of where it needs to go. And then it gets spent inefficiently and on the wrong things, right? So there is already money there. Yeah, we might need to ask for a little bit more, but I'm sure there's a lot we can do with what's currently there if we're doing it right and efficiently. Sometimes you just got to negotiate the price, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes because people are like, oh, we'll throw the money and they'll take the first couple bids and go. And, I'm in construction now. You don't do that. Nope. No, we farm bids. And then I hear, a lot of border towns complaining, well, we need equipment and we can't afford the equipment. Well, government equipment is not ran as often as civilian equipment. That means other towns have it. That means there can be cross sharing. And that's another where a congressional lever can come in and, hey, they need a bulldozer for whatever, right? And that'll help reduce that cost in infrastructure. But then the most important part, and that's the people. Okay. And this is where root cause comes in. District 23 is low income, low training. And I have a lot of plans to help that. So here we got a college that just got to a 4-year, right? Nice. That's a great thing. Absolutely. But the towns need vocational training. When your lot in life, if you stay in the town as the manager of a fast food restaurant, there's something wrong. Especially in a district like 23 with so many advantages that we can take advantage of. And really, if we take advantage of them, it's just like the rest of Texas taking advantage of what's going on right now. Like, look at Dallas area and the 126 headquarters that have now moved here. Now we're getting stock market. We're never going to see that in West Texas. But what West Texas can do is energy, and more energy. Okay. So that's the next part. And it is removing, this doesn't cost money. It is removing red tape for those energy companies. And we start with the oil companies. They already got holes in the ground. What do they do with the natural gas? They just dump it right back in the ground, right? Because they have too much red tape. They don't have support getting the equipment they need, right? That's another revenue stream. That is another bit of vocational training paid for by the oil companies for whole new infrastructure, whole new people without ever drilling another hole, right? And the South might not use natural gas a lot, but the North sure as heck does. Huge. And that is probably the easiest fix to start with. Okay. Then I like to talk about the other renewable energy. I don't like wind farms. And I know most of West Texas does not like wind farms either, right? We're taking up prime land. It's not efficient to make. It doesn't push enough back into the grid. But what does, and I do like, but not how it's employed within District 23, is solar. Again, taking up prime land, and it's far away from the grid. But guess what? We got parking lots and we got buildings. We make it so that those solar panels absolutely get installed, but they go on top of buildings, and you create carports, you keep people's cars cool, and you get that solar directly into the grid. And it doesn't take up prime land, because guess what? Farming is huge. And I'm going to support the farmers. I grew up on a farm myself. I like to tell people I'm pretty cowboy. I know to keep my heels down and not touch the saddle horn. Okay. I raced. I hunted on horseback even. Okay. So I understand the people of West Texas, and I'm going to help their farmlands too. And then my next thing is, and it would take a long time, but it has to have somebody to start. And I know it's scary for people, but West Texas is prime for nuclear. And now I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so we got a lot of data farms coming in now because of all these new headquarters. The power grid across Texas needs more power. And yeah, there's a fight on the AI ones, but just these headquarters, those big data banks for all their information is huge. Okay, nuclear has improved so much. What's our last time we had a nuclear incident? I was actually there right after. It was Tomodachi, Japan, 2011.
Yeah.
But that was because that nuclear power plant was near the ocean. It was hit with a tsunami. I don't think, Isaac, we have an issue with a tsunami or hurricane very much in West Texas, no, putting a bunch of water on it. You know what I'm saying? So
we don't have to worry about.
Oh, you don't, right? And think about that vocational training. Think about those wages. And I like to tell people more Republicans graduate high school, more Republicans graduate trade school, and more Democrats graduate college, right? Well, West Texas, right there, trade school, vocational training, we are perfect for it. And what do you do? What happens, Isaac, when we bring up the income of the whole area? That's root cause, isn't it?
Revitalizes everything.
Everything. And we can do this with energy while protecting the farmers, while keeping everybody's lifestyle the same, without going crazy on weird bills and throwing money at stuff. Heck no, we're getting private companies to invest because there's so much money to be made there, right? And then when we get there, then it's open up for decades worth of future energy resource. Because again, we have the room, right? And stuff that isn't even thought of yet. I mean, shoot, we don't even know how to do geothermal yet. But imagine if 20, 30 years down the road, West Texas figures out geothermal energy. It would change the world. And it can start right here. But if we don't start it now, if we don't open it up for that energy development, we'll never get there. So somebody's got to start it. So that's my
Absolutely,
plan, man.
absolutely.
It's take the red tape away. Let's get everybody talking. Let's get real industry in here that West Texas can support, that also supports the rest of Texas and how they're growing.
I like that. I like that, an aggressive strategy. And I think that you need to be thinking 10, 15 years in advance. Where are we going to be right now rather than just being reactive to situations in a proactive mindset? You set up everything to move forward for the District 23.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea of doing the natural gas first, because that's the first domino. Once you get that domino going, things start falling in place.
Yeah, everything starts coming in. So, border security, it's usually used as a slogan. In
Yes.
practical terms, what does effective border security look like for communities along the border?
So, and we kind of already touched on it, but here's my
Mhm.
thing. So, let's think about the cartels. They are a business with an illegal commodity. They're not stupid. That means the border from a defensive position always has to change. It is a never ending thing. And I like to tell people we need to treat the border like we would a college or a hospital. It's never done being built, it's never done being worked on, it's never done, the tactics are never done being changed. It needs the physical barriers of both either man made or physical made, surveillance, patrols, and choke points. And then you adjust it from there. But then here's the other thing about the border. I'm a logistics guy, right? We have a lot of technology. We are, and our choke points and our vetting process for legal immigration is not up to par, right? America used to be built on these foreign nationals coming in that brought something to this country. So why do we have master degree engineers taking 10 years to get in? But we're letting other people in illegally right off the cuff. That's not okay. And we got the technology to vet faster. And same thing with vetting for product, right? Mexico, they still have lots of positives for us, and they are still a good trade partner. So as long as we're vetting, that logistics train going back and forth should be made more efficient. It helps everything, and we spend. And then if you think about the second and third order effects, when you make those things more efficient, you save money. We are spending way too much time. We can get more product, more people through the border legally while spending a fraction of the cost just by upgrading systems. And that's the other part of the border.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, especially in the border, we tend to get everything a little bit later, technology, equipment, any kind of system out there. And it's a thing that we've seen in the past couple of years that the border is at the forefront of our nation where it needs to be
True statement.
secured and it needs to be invested on very heavily by the federal government. I can't agree with you more there. Switching gears a little bit, water infrastructure remains a critical concern in South and West Texas. What role should Congress play in long-term water security for this region?
So that is another thing I've really hammering on, because what has this current administration done? They've put more water into the system, but the system's broken. In most of the country, if a water system is losing 10% water, fire alarms go off. West Texas, from leakage alone, can be up to 30%. That is, pun intended, money down the drain, right? And I did the calculation. It's somewhere around $266 million a year just in water, not labor, not infrastructure, nothing that's just seeping into the ground. And what do? Instead of fixing those broken pipes, we shove more water into the system. That money should have gone to the biggest leaks. And people don't realize this about West Texas is without earthquakes, some of the ground is softer, right? So it shifts. And that's why there's so many leaks. Some of the old ones were not buried deep enough to stay cool either, right? And then the ground shifts and it breaks these pipes. Now, newer pipes, the iron pipes with the proper sealing on the inside, those will last forever and a day. So you do this with a process called consumption. Stop throwing money into adding more water. You take that same money and you go to the major leaks first and you work on it. And when you go fix that leak, you have a designated distance from before and after, since you're already digging the hole. You fix those pipes and you go consumption piece by piece by piece until you upgrade the system, because there will still be some old pipes that won't need to be replaced for a while because the ground isn't shifting there. But that's what's killing us. So with the population density of District 23, There's enough water in the system already to support that. It's just being leaked. And then the next part is evaporation. So a lot of West Texas has a lot of retention ponds that are built old school. They're not very deep and they're very wide. That is evaporation all day. Whereas newer retention ponds, we go a lot deeper and then we cover. So that would be, and that's an easy one. We'll worry about the old ones later, but any new ones need to be up to modern standards and be covered. And that's going to save a lot of water too, because out of those retention ponds is mostly where the water is for the farmers come in. It's not drinkable water, it's farming water, right? And so when you're losing that much already to evaporation, while the farmers are already dealing with having the water at the right times to battle evaporation, we're just killing ourselves. So absolutely. So again, logistics mindset, let's do it right the first time. Let's use upgraded technology. And then as we see the savings, we'll go back and we'll fix some of the older ones.
No, yeah, and actually that problem does hit real close to home with, I was mentioning at the beginning of the podcast, with Quemado, which is on the north side. It's an unincorporated town. It's within Maverick County, about a 15-minute drive from Eagle Pass on the north side of Maverick County. I actually work there as a consultant for some grants, and they have a big problem. It's the only water system that is designed with a gravity. So it's all gravity there.
Like old school Roman.
Yeah. It's all gravity fed. Everything's. I mean, this was built back in the 1920s, I believe. It's an old one. But the biggest problem they had when I was there is that we were trying to apply for grants with the Texas Water Development Board to repair their system. Their system, a lot of these places don't. Some of them are concrete lined. They're open channels. You said about the evaporation. That, of course, I mean, that stuff's evaporating. They lose a lot of water. They have seepage like crazy. I remember one time going out with not the general manager, with the superintendent, looking at one, and then you're looking at the channel, and then you see behind it, and you see another pond right behind it because of all the leakage that's coming out of there. And just like you said, that's a big loss of water, which costs money, which you can't replace that.
No.
And that's what you really touched it on there with what's going on, not only in CD23 but right in our own backyards here in Maverick County.
Correct.
Family court reform. I know that's one of your issues that you've been putting out there. It's a central theme in your campaign. What is the issue important to you personally, or how did this come about?
So, we'll just kind of give a little bit of the history, okay? And most people don't know this. The funding from the federal government to support family court goes to the amount of child support that they collect. Right now, it's a 66% matching. Okay? And that was needed 50 years ago when the program came out. Okay? Because people weren't paying. But the laws have shifted. Okay? And the laws say gender neutral, 50-50. All the science backs, the most time you can get with both parents, the better the child is. You get better education, less mental health issues, higher paying jobs, more secure within the country. The problem is that everybody that goes after this, frankly, they're lawyers. That means they're inside the system. And what they try to always do is they try to change the family court laws. Well, then you're talking about the 10th Amendment, right? Then you're affecting state rights. So my proposal is 12 pages. That's it. I already got a draft. And I've already started talking to some of these advocacy groups trying to do this. And they didn't think about this either. So first off, family courts, they say they're supposed to track certain parts of data that we don't know is accurate. Like, for instance, how much split there actually is in the country, how many fathers and mothers are actually primary, all these things, right? And every other court system already does this, okay? Family courts are also supposed to actually cite the laws that they use to make their decision. Right? And that is just like every other court. But in family court, there's this thing called discretion. And when you don't cite the law that you're actually using to make the decision, then you're just doing it by discretion. And that is an abuse of discretion, in my opinion. So my proposal is everything that they're supposed to do already within the law, match what a criminal court, what a civil court, make the judge show their work. And people are going to complain, well, that's going to cause more work for them, but it was already proven in these other courts it actually doesn't, because now it becomes a checklist. And we're just talking just the major things, right? And so it's not buried in text. And then I think of it like this. The parents are the customers. right? We're not talking
Mhm.
about criminals. We're not talking about a civil lawsuit between major companies. These are normal Americans. And they should never walk out of a family court and not understand why this judge made the decision that affects their lives the way they did. Okay? So my proposal does nothing to change the judge's discretion. It doesn't change their decision making. It makes them put it on paper. And then the other thing is, we're not touching any laws. We're just taking Title 9D and applying that same money to what the laws say. And the states would then get that money for being more gender neutral, for citing the laws correctly, for being closer to 50-50. Why is that so important? So it's important just from a child aspect, but then we go back to root cause. And thank you, Charlie Kirk, because he just didn't have this last little lever, right? But he talked about it all the time. What's wrong? Rebuilding the families. This
Mhm.
is the lever to start that. You start. Perfect case in point. Kentucky is actually the furthest when it comes to getting 50-50 time sharing. They've already
Okay.
seen a 25% drop in divorce.
Wow.
Wow. And we're talking, Isaac, about a 12-page bill that simply just tells judges, show your work at the beginning of the order, and we're gonna reward you for following the law instead of
No.
incentivizing child support. That is as bipartisan root cause for family court I think you could ever see. And again, we don't affect anything with the state. And then it's voluntary anyway. If the state doesn't want to participate, cool. You just don't get the money. So guess what? They're all going to participate for sure. But
Yeah.
we already have case studies, and that's the other beautiful part. There's multiple states that are trying portions of this already and showing massive results. So why not roll it out full fledged with an easy bill? That's my point.
No, yeah, that sounds good, and yeah, I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. That does, I mean, Texas is different right now. We're hoping it shifts, right? But that is one of the concerns that many people do have is equal parents, and you can see there's a lot of studies. I mean, you said so yourself that there's a lot of studies that the kids they totally benefit from having both parents in their lives the equal amount of time, and every kid deserves that. Every kid deserves that, and
Absolutely.
no, yeah. So, how would you balance the parental rights with child safety, particularly in cases involving abuse or neglect?
Okay, so that is actually part of it too. Okay, so part of the idea was first off, uncontested cases don't count for the state's record. Okay, so if a parent doesn't show up, it's not going to go. There's the court can't do anything about trying to get closer to 50-50, right? And same thing with major abuse cases. But the caveat to that is also in there. The judge needs to show what evidence was presented to them, and if they didn't consider that child safety evidence, what law they used to not consider it. So again, just showing work, very short, but it puts it on paper. And so the states, yeah, if it's a bad domestic violence or whatever, and and they can justify it by the law, by their own state laws, it can be different all across. Then that won't count against them for those funds.
I think that's something that would definitely benefit here in Texas. And especially it's just following how you said that Kentucky's over there, they're showing us that what's being done. I mean, why not follow what, is working out there?
Exactly.
Absolutely. As a veteran, where do you believe the federal government is falling short in serving former service members?
So I've actually been in the VA system in 3 different states now. Doesn't mean Texas is perfect, but of the 3 states, Texas is definitely better. I'm actually saying there's a lot that other states could actually learn from the Texas system. Doesn't mean we stop, right? It is never a non. We're always going to try to keep improving it. And I think the biggest thing with just like any other government agency, those improvements need to come from, again, root cause analysis, looking for efficiencies sometimes, right? You get a lot of double work going on in the VA, and that slows the process down, and it costs money that way. So that's really where we need to go for that. I believe that the benefits themselves are great, and I think Texas absolutely cares about its veterans more than any other state I've been in. And I've been all over the world. I've been all over the country. So I think that's the model. But we just for Texas, we go after efficiency. For the rest of the country, we say, look at Texas, start copying.
Awesome. I got to mention this. I mean, as I'm asking these questions, I have multiple questions, but when you're answering them, you're checking off all those questions that I have following up. So I appreciate that. You're making my job a little bit easier here. Let's
No
hope that
problem.
happens also in CD23, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Let's see. Governing philosophy and accountability is what we want to dive into next. What
Okay.
does fiscal responsibility mean to you when it comes to federal spending and national debt? I know we spoke a little bit about that, but can you elaborate?
Yeah, so I think that the data, the accountability, the auditing does not go down far enough. At a certain point with federal funds, it gets to the point where you have individuals making decisions, which is where fraud can come in, which is where funds go to unintentional places. We already have the infrastructure for this. We just need to expand it, and we need to watch the dollar further down the road. That is a big thing. And when we do that, we also work on those efficiencies again. Why are you spending this much money on this when we could do it this way instead? Okay, because the Congress does not have the bandwidth, even with 400 and something congressmen, does not have the bandwidth to micromanage these funds all the way down. You have to set in a place of accountability. And again, this is 2026, Isaac. We have a lot of technology just to follow this. Interconnected systems that are not being implemented or used, but we have to follow the dollar down further and have auditors throughout the place. Because yes, it's going to cost more money for those auditors, but guess what? They are going to make their money over and over and over again just by it not going to waste. Why are we sending, what about all these horror stories at Doge, right? All this money going to Africa for these ridiculous reasons. No, not acceptable. It stays here. It stays here
No,
and it needs to be
yeah. I
audited.
mean, I can contest to that. It's even dealing with grants, like in my professional life, you have grants going outside of this country in the sum of millions and millions of dollars when we're not at a level to say that we can be given millions and millions out when we have so many problems within our own businesses, infrastructure, and everything that we need to take care of. It's kind of crazy that we're sending money out and fraud. I mean, let's go ahead and pick something close that just happened there in Minnesota with the Somalian daycares. That, where is all that money going? Where was it, or what happened? Or there is no chokeholds or chokes where we can go ahead and say, "Hey, what's going on here?" I mean, that's a pretty
For
big ball
sure.
to drop.
I love the fact that we had this young patriot kid using his brain and he figured it out. And he opened the rest of the country's eyes just through thinking through it. And that is amazing. And those are the kinds of more people that we need in this country thinking about this kind of stuff. Because there is no such thing, Isaac, as government money. It's taxpayer money. And we need to be responsible. And we can make it stretch so much further if we just treated it more like a business. That's it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Are there any areas where you disagree with the Republican Party, with the Republicans' party current direction or leadership in Congress?
Congress for sure. Okay. I hate the extreme right and extreme left. I hate the divide that is put in. I want to make decisions based on data. I want to make decisions based on, like I said, root cause. Let's dig in. We need shorter bills. Isaac, come in. Do you want to read an 800-page bill with 14 different subjects in it? Hell no.
I don't know who has time for that, really.
No, right. Bills should be about, I get it, budget bills and stuff. Those are going to be big, but they're broken up. But when we're talking about fixing things, these need to be short and where a normal, educated American person can read them and understand them. The legalese, right? It's being written like a complex appeal court order. Nope. This is a direct focused fix to this certain issue, and we've already done the vetting to where this issue, we assume at least, is going to help other issues. So I think if we can get there, we can start to come back together. And Congress is, again, they're so focused on all these extreme ideas and bills for these extreme ideas when we need to be thinking about the basic needs of the American people. That's what you need to be going after.
No,
That's
yeah,
the
I
majority of
agree.
people. And regardless of any extreme ideas and, trans people or whatever it is, you still are a person. You still need water. You still need your roads fixed. You still need to be safe. It doesn't matter what your ideology is. You need the ability for the pursuit of happiness. And that's where government's supposed to be focused on.
It sounds like common sense stuff, right?
Shut the front door. Common sense.
How would you measure success if elected to Congress in your first term?
With second and third order effects, I want to say 40 billion, and that's doable. Let's just say by some miracle of God, I got my child court reform done. Across the country, that's hundreds of billions of dollars saved. Hundreds of billions. So 40 billion, not with a logistics mindset, is nothing. Not with the budgets we're talking about. So that is my success. And then up to 60 the second year. Personally think I can beat it, but we're not going to go too far for the first term. I'll go a little, once I understand the system a little bit better and how to work through it and how not to get trapped into the extreme ideologies, I'll bump those numbers up. But that's my goal, is to, and like I said, I don't think I need Congress for a lot of that. I really don't. I think it's just leadership with the current budgets that we have, working together as communities across District 23 and even the surrounding districts. There's no point that we can't talk. There's no point I can't call a state house member and say, hey, get on this meeting with me. Let's talk through this, right? Nothing's stopping me. It used to happen that way a lot more, right? It just doesn't anymore.
There's a big divide right now.
Yes, sir.
What does your support base look like so far? How important is grassroots funding to your campaign?
It's extremely important, and it's very low. Thank goodness for midterms. Most voters in midterms, they're the serious voters. So my online presence is ever growing. My support from my family and friends has been amazing. I'm doing the work. I'm running 3 businesses right now and campaigning. So I am all over the place. Plus we got the family, but that's okay. We're just making it happen for sure. So it's wonderful people like you bringing me on, helping me spread this out. I have definitely applied for several PACs and several endorsements through companies, just talking to them. They've sent me surveys, so we're going to see how some of those kind of come out, and then we'll just go from there. I'm gonna do my best, and frankly, if I don't win, well, guess what? Watch out. 2 years, I'm still coming. I ain't done. So I really think if I can get the support, people can hear my voice and just help me get to a runoff. You help me get to the runoff, I have a legitimate chance. If we can get, because let's face it, the primary is name recognition. The runoff is, what do you bring to the table? You get me to a runoff, people, then we'll really talk. Then we can really compare some of these candidates, right? And frankly, I'm the only one, man. I'm the only one in it for them. This is completely unselfish. I don't want to be a career politician. Like I said, I want 3 terms. That's what the House was designed for, Isaac, right? It wasn't designed for people to be there 30, 40 years. Supposed to be constant turnover.
Yeah, and we have a lot of them in there that have been well past their welcome at Congress.
I mean, what do they know about their district at that point, man? They're gone half the year in DC. It's not enough time, So, yeah.
What would you say to voters who are skeptical for first-time candidates that are, out there, don't have experience as an elected official?
You have to look at their leadership. This is a leadership position. And that leadership is underutilized, right? Too many congressmen focus on writing bills. I have been in real world leadership positions, combat big businesses for over 25 years. I'm older than I look, Isaac. I am, I promise. So
we actually have a question coming in from in the comments. They're asking, ZB07 is asking, how do you feel about government surveillance on citizens, as Tony voted against requiring a warrant to spy on Americans?
I absolutely think we should have warrants. This is the difference between a democracy and a democratic republic. You cannot take our rights away. We have the Bill of Rights. We have these amendments. We have these rights as American citizens, and those are always protected. And you have your privacy at home on purpose. You need probable cause or you need a warrant, okay? We're not talking about surveillance on a public area. I'm all about surveillance on a public area. I really am. That's where you catch the bad guys. But every man's house is his castle. And that's it, right? 2A, shall not be infringed. 1, I don't care what you say. You have that right. I'm going to ignore you. When you start calling me names, I'm going to could definitely ignore you. but you have that right. I don't have to agree with you, and I don't have to do what you say, but I'm going to protect your rights. I did that in the Marine Corps, and that's all this is to me again. I already signed, as an enlisted member, you swear an oath to your service. As an officer, you swear an oath to the Constitution. I would just be signing a note or swearing an oath again to the Constitution. And that is important. That's the fundamentals. And I think people also forget that's where religion actually does come in. Yes, it's separation of church and state, but the morals and the original laws of this country are built with a Christian mindset. And there are several religions that match those same morals, right? Judaism is perfect, right? Absolutely. But that's the moral backbone of our country. Yeah, warrants, probable cause, follow the law. That's the biggest thing you're always going to hear me say, Isaac. All right, cool. This is a complicated situation. What does the law say?
Yeah.
Right?
That's what they're there for.
Exactly. Stop making assumptions before the investigation's over. How about that? Let's finish the investigation. Let's let a judge, because that's their job, her, let the process finish, and then we'll deal with it. And I think also you go back to Reagan, right? Man, what a wonderful president. And talking about quit blaming society for the actions of individuals. We have to get back there, man. You can't blame an entire group of people for a couple bad apples. Gotta stop it. It's not okay. Most Americans, I truly believe this in my heart, most Americans are good people.
I agree with you. We have ZB. They elaborated a little bit. Tony also voted to fund federal vaccine tracking database. What's your stance on that?
Man, I think that parents are supposed to be parents. I think parents and health workers are supposed to make their decisions with caveats. Those caveats is we need to educate parents more. You don't get a rule book when you become a parent, right?
No.
It doesn't.
If not, nobody said one to me.
Right? And it doesn't mean like we can force education, but people should be understanding, even sometimes, even if you have to break it down simply, what is being put in their child. And that is the cause. That is the right of those parents. Do it now. There's other things that when I said caveats, I am a big supporter of no transitioning until you're 18 and you're an adult and you can make that decision. But when it comes to vaccinations, when it comes to major health decisions, and here's another thing on health decisions. The ability of a split home and one parent to be able to make those decisions without the other parent has to stop. There are two minds in there. That child is half yours and half theirs. That is you both. You made that decision and you need to be doing that decision together. So again, education, parents' decision. I think that we really need to use science and really look at what vaccinations are truly needed still. If some can be, I'm not a biologist, man, but I'm sure we can find some adjustments, right? Maybe some of these dosages are too high. I don't know. But there's those smart people in the world that can tell us that. So we follow the science. And that's what we adjust.
Yeah. Absolutely. And thank you to ZB for the questions coming in. Now that we kind of spoke about the incumbent Congressman Tony Gonzalez, you're challenging him, the incumbent Congressman Tony Gonzalez. What do you believe, or where do you believe he has failed to deliver for the people of CD23?
I think people forget that he was censured. He was censured by the party, the only Republican to vote against border. And yet, come election time, he's all border. I think that's unsatisfactory. The border is not an election topic. The border towns are certainly not an election topic. You don't get to sit in DC for a year and a half and only come and talk at the half year. Not okay. Unsatisfactory. You have to know your district and you have to vote the way your district wants you to vote. Gotta stop. It's not your personal feelings all the time, right? You have people under you to figure out what your district actually wants. And that's how you help make those tough decisions, right? Those complicated moral decisions. Okay, I don't know where to go on this. What does my district want? That's how you should roll, right? Do I need the district for these very fine tooth? Absolutely, I do, through the subject matter experts, right? And that's why I'm still including the district. We get there, we get to the point. I don't need to call everybody in the world because I know that I'm fixing it. But am I going to get their opinion when it comes to something I'm not even sure on myself? Absolutely, 100% absolutely. And that's what he fails. That's not leadership, Isaac. I tell my people all the time I learn more from them than they learn from me. All the time. They are the subject matter experts. I'm the one setting the left and right lateral limits. I'm the ones guiding us in a direction and keeping us safe. But I trust my people to do their job. And I supervise. And they are part of my team. I'm not their boss. I'm their leader. That's the difference. Tony's a boss. I'm a leader.
Oh, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the century, because that was something that was, fought from him on his side through several people that are on his side. And it's kind of funny. I saw it unfold with several counties, and it was a fight in each and every county. I mean, you had some strong people that, believed he should be censured. They stood up, they fought for it. And the people that I do talk around in District 23, they always mention that Tony Gonzalez has his henchmen, his people. And those are the ones that would push back on this censorship. And you haven't heard too much about that in recent time. They did censor him, but do we hear about it now? We don't. So I'm glad you brought that up again. And, that is a congressman that got censured by the Republican Party. And it was something that started with each and every individual county that got together through their committees and voted for his censorship. So I
Right.
appreciate you bringing that up.
And that makes me think, what are they going to do this time? Right? It was a close runoff last time. Was it because they only had two choices? I don't know. But if they can remember that and any of the other issues that we don't even need to get into, right? I'm not going to throw mud that way. Yeah, and everybody, most people I talk to, they, especially outside of San Antonio, they completely agree. It's time for a change. So let's change it.
Do you think they need to redistrict CD23? Because it kind of seems to me West Texas, the border, is not really, it's real different whenever you bring in San Antonio. It's a whole different ball game. It's like I mentioned before, it's very politically diverse district. Now, do you think that it would totally change if we were to remove San Antonio from the district?
Yeah, well, so you also got to remember, right? The goal of these districts is also population mass, right? What's their goal? Between 5 and 600,000 people. So if that's your goal, then your district going to be underrepresented, right? So I think that this current one is probably still an experimental stage, right? Because it was just done again, right? So I think we need to let that roll for a little bit. You don't want to always make too many changes over and over and over again. Let's see the adjustment. But the beauty is too, West San Antonio is certainly more right than Central San Antonio. So so we're okay there. That's population density that helps us with it. And I trust the people of West San Antonio to think more for the rest of District 23 than I ever would Central San Antonio. Right. It's just different. And I live in West San Antonio, so I absolutely get it. I see it. So yeah, I'm never opposed to change. I'm never opposed to positive change, but we need the data first to see if it's necessary.
Can you point to a specific vote or a policy position taken by Congressman Gonzalez that you would have handled totally different?
I mean, it comes right back to the border. That's the biggest one for me. And then the myriad of other votes where he went nearly completely against the party. So my understanding is he only got a 68% rating from CPAC. This is West Texas, man. This is conservative as it gets. And you can actually go on some of these sites, iVoter and whatnot, and you can see where we align, where we fall out. He is literally in the center. There's a cross, and he's right there in the middle.
I've seen that, yeah.
I am not. Now, I'm not extreme. I like to tell people I'm not extreme on anything except being an American. But I'm definitely right-wing on my ideology. I am bipartisan. I'm fixing issues, and I am right-wing on my ideology. So, and that's what we need. And I think that's completely different than him.
Yeah, I think the word is they've been calling him a rhino.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That's not something I want to be known as.
Leadership is often judged not by policy, but also how a crisis has happened. Recently, there was a tragic incident with a staff member of Congressman Gonzalez's office ruled as a suicide. Without speculating on the case, what responsibility do elected officials have to ensure healthy, professional, and supportive workplace environments for their staff?
For their staff themselves, okay. So, from just that aspect, that's where I like intrusive leadership. And here, let me explain that. Most people quit their jobs not because of pay, because of their boss. And I always remember that when those people that work with me go home, they talk about me at the dinner table. If I am not their leader, if I am their boss, I don't want their spouse, right? Understanding. I treat people, I don't care about their background. I treat people like adults and I support them. And when I say intrusive leadership, that means I am there to support them with their personal lives too, whatever they want, right? Okay, hey, my guys, shoot, man, they got medical appointments. We make it happen, right? We have an emergency. We make it happen. And then I say, you want to talk about it? I'm here. We'll close door. I'll listen. I don't even have to talk. I'm here for you. And so for my staff, let's face it, like my staff, if I'm the congressman, it'll be a lot smaller than I've dealt with before. I'm going to be really able to support my staff, which means my staff is going to be able to support the voters. And that's where I think there's definitely a clear separation of personal relationship. But as a leader, I'm a coach and I'm a mentor and I'm a listener. And that's what you have to be. The other parts, I will say this about the investigation: all investigations should be transparent. And it's in the law, right? I don't think, absolutely HIPAA rules, medical, whatever. But there needs to be more transparency throughout government. Our secrets should be outside. I was in the military, right? I know all about secrets. Absolutely. Yeah. Those are secrets. Those get held on to. But when it comes to what's happening in our country with the basic processes, transparency is the best way to keep people's trust. Period. Right now, I don't think people trust things enough.
I would have to agree with you. And again, you're answering the question before I even say it, man. Thank you. You're making this really.
You're welcome.
Well, we actually have a question coming in. Will you be receiving funding from pro-Israel AIPAC? What is your stance on what's happening? It seems that those have received funding are putting Israel first. We need a congressman who will put citizens of United States first.
Okay, so this is where now we're getting into foreign policy. Well, thank you for that. Absolutely, Americans do come first. At the same time, being a combat vet, I understand our role as a superpower. I understand our role as when absolutely necessary, we can take care of things. Okay. Things like NATO. We don't need NATO. We're America. Okay. Then I think about the Middle East, and I served in the Middle East. I absolutely believe we will eventually go back to Afghanistan. When we have messed up Afghanistan twice. Charlie Wilson's war, this last one, we did not help build them up. So really, what are our two allies? We only have two allies in the Middle East that will always be conflict. That's Israel and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is not even morally attached to us. Israel is. Those people have been through so much for centuries. So yes, I am pro-Israel because their moral code matches mine the closest. Okay. I've served with Muslims. I've seen Islamic extremists. I've also served with Jews. Okay. I'm okay with that. So you can do both. You don't have to only take care of American people, and you don't also have to just ignore foreign policy. You need foreign policy. But the best way for America to use the superpower is what's been happening is we are the ones that force people to the table to talk. That does not cost a lot of money, people, in comparison to a war. We should do it any chance we get because it saves people's lives. We might be different countries, but every person on this planet is the same species. And so I don't think we need to be spending so much money outside, but our influence we have plenty of people to also push that influence out and help the world that way at least. So don't ignore one for the other. Money-wise, that more money needs to stay in the country. Absolutely. A lot more. But doesn't mean we take our eye off the bat because there's threats. And there will always be threats. And when you're the big boy on the table, no, I mean, I like to say, look at the Chicago Bulls back in the day, right? Everybody played better when they were playing against Jordan. Well, guess what? We're Jordan. And everybody's going to put up their best game against us. So we have to watch them.
Absolutely. Why should voters in Texas 3rd Congressional District trust you with their vote?
I'm an honorable man. I am, and I'm going to. You're not. You don't have to worry about me worrying about the crazy ideas. My folk. I'm a go big or go home. I go after problems, and I've done it my whole career. I've risked my life for this country, and I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that to brag. I knew I was going to be in the military since I was 6 years old. I just did it. So it's just a recall for service. I'm sacrificing a lot. We have a 2 year old, man, a 2 year old, and I'm doing this.
Wow.
But I'm doing this because people need it. People need somebody to care, and I like to tell people too. I will maintain staff so that I'm available. I am going to be available for District 23. I'm not going to be available for most of the rest of the country, but I'm going to be available for District 23 because these are my people now.
Oh, yeah. And I know that you had a certain thing that you did in calling out the incumbent Congressman Tony Gonzalez, and you want to debate him.
I do, and he missed his deadline, man. That offer is off the table, so it's time for everybody to spread that around. Like, if you want to go for office, you need to defend your positions. You need to take questions from your voters. You don't need photo ops. You need to actually listen. Great, we're going around, we're talking to chiefs of police and all that, and government officials. Absolutely, you got to do that. That's coordination. But when you're not hearing from your people, when you're not allowing your opponent to talk to, that's un-American. That's like being a boxer that can still box and not having a title fight. Not allowed, man. That's just not allowed. That's not the American way. You're hiding, and I don't like it. And guess what? You vote me in, I'll debate and I'll debate and I'll debate. And guess what? Maybe District 23 changes and my ideology doesn't work anymore. That's the point of a vote. But you're going to hear my opinion. And guess what? My opinion is probably going to change. It will change on as needs of the district change, and we'll go after the next problem. And that'll be my next priority because you're supposed to adjust, right? But I will always defend it. And, and I'm not going to talk like a politician because I'm not a politician. You're going to hear me just like this. I'm an operator. So yeah, that I don't think it's okay.
No, and I think the voters of the Congressional District 23rd, Texas's 23rd Congressional District appreciate that. And they want to see this discussion, this talk, this debate go between the candidates so we can choose whoever is the best for our district. It's important. It's critical to have this kind of debate. We also kind of been throwing in, this is, I would say, how many terms he has now? 3 terms?
He's on his 3rd, I think.
Congressman. Yeah. So since he was running back in the day against Raul Reyes, we have asked him to come on the Maverick Times podcast. We've had this for a while. It's changed a little bit. We used to be the Rising Texan. Something happened. We had to go to the Maverick Times, but we've been reaching out to Congressman Tony Gonzalez ever since before he was a congressman. And not once has he responded to show up like you have here, kind of not knowing what you're expecting, didn't know what questions you were going to be thrown. You didn't, sometimes I get this thing where people ask for the interview questions beforehand. You didn't ask me for any question. You didn't tell me, well, what are we going to talk about? And that was something that's completely new to me. I mean, usually when I interview or people come on the podcast, they want to know, well, what are you going to ask? And hey, this is off the table. I don't want to talk about this or this and that. And I pride myself in saying that we don't throw softball questions out here. We want to get candidates or anybody we interview from the community. We want to get them talking. We want to get a sense of who they really are, because people can just answer questions, and you don't know who they are. But and that's where I was getting to my point where you were answering these questions even before. So I know you're not holding anything back. I know you're not watching what you're saying. It's coming straight from what you believe. And I think that's real refreshing, especially here in our congressional district where we haven't had that. I mean, even before you had Will Hurd, before Tony took over, Will Hurd did show up a little bit more than Tony, I will say that. But it's been very different ever since Tony came on board. And, there's been a lot of names thrown out there, Phony Tony, the Rhino, and again, we appreciate you coming on. We know we reached out, and you were all for it. We really appreciate it. I don't know if you have anything else to say to the audience, the ones watching right now, and the thousands that are going to watch this after it's over.
Yeah, so I got two things. So I want to expand on what you said. I appreciate that. I'm also going to tell you when somebody asks me a question and I don't know, I'm going to tell them I don't know. But I'm going to tell them I'm going to go research. I'm going to find it out. I didn't know anything about the screwworm. I was calling the ag department and learning. And I figured it out, right? And I have a farming background, so yeah, that was easier for me. But so that is my promise to District 23. I'm not going to have every solution, but I'm going to figure it out. I always do. And when I'm wrong, I'm going to admit when I'm wrong. I'm going to tell you, hey, we made this plan. It didn't happen right. We screwed this up. Here's the new solution. Because that's what is owed to the people. People can respect you when you made a decision attempting to do the right thing and you might have made a mistake and you own that mistake, especially when you come with a secondary plan. So that's just being a leader. I admit I'm wrong all the time to my guys, and that's okay. That is perfectly okay, because guess what? I put my pants on the same way they do. It's not a big deal. So yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, money's one thing, but right now this is midterms. If you like what I've had to say, help get the word out for me, please. That's the best thing. Right now I'm trying to reach voters. Some endorsements will come, some more money will come, but we're in a technological age. We can do a lot of this through here. And so that's my big support I'm asking for right now. If you agree and you like what I'm saying, spread the word to the other voters, let them hear it too. And then reach out to my campaign. If you have direct questions, hit me up, because I'll talk about it. I will absolutely figure it out and I'll talk about it. We'll do more interviews. We'll talk about it there if we come up with another one, and what my plan could be for it if it's necessary. And even if, let's just say I see it as too a high level of a thing, I'm going to tell you the root cause thing that I can go after that will help fix that in the future too. And then, okay, but in the meantime, this is the people we need to talk to. But I can work on this part, and here's the person that can work on this part. That's my promise to you, because that's what leaders do.
Yeah, no, I can really appreciate that. I think a lot of people forget things are fixed from the foundation up, not from, topward down. And I think once people get in Congress, they get kind of complacent about that. And just like we've seen with the congressman, we are the ones who elect them. Where is he?
Right.
Where is he? Any final words, Keith? We appreciate it. It's been awesome. We're hoping, I know March the 3rd, I believe
Yes,
it's
sir.
the primary election. Early voting starts in February, about a
February
month away.
17th. Yes, sir. February
17th, a month
17th.
away. We'd love to have you again, maybe in a couple of weeks, just so we can follow up and get an update on the campaign, see how everything's going.
Absolutely, for sure. Absolutely,
Awesome.
I will. And I appreciate it. Thanks for being one of the first ones to get me going. I won't forget in the future. I promise. You can keep me in the Congress for 6 years. I'll still come back and do interviews with you, Isaac, for sure.
Awesome. That sounds like a deal to me.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right, guys. So that concludes our podcast. Again, we were interviewing the Republican nominee candidate for Texas Congressional District, 23rd District. Here locally, it encompasses Eagle Pass, Maverick County, Del Rio, and Valverde, where our audience is mostly based out of. This is a candidate that is out here looking to get known, looking to get his word out. He is, obviously, you saw the interview. Those of you who've been following the interview, he's a little different than Tony. Tony, we've been trying to get him on an interview since he ran back in the day against the great Raul Reyes. And, since then, even before then, there was no way we could get him on here. Now, we were able to secure interviews with Raul Reyes 6 years ago, 3 terms ago. He was more than happy to come on. He's been in other of our interviews as well later on. And then we also had Frank Lopez from Valverde County. He's come on our show several times before as well. And we have yet to hear from Tony Gonzalez if he'll be willing to come on the Maverick Times podcast. So there you have it, guys. Do we want somebody that is willing to come on to prove himself to the audience, to you guys, Or do we want somebody that continues to run and hide and only uses certain media to control narratives that he needs to? The decision is you guys. It's up to you. You are the voters. We're headed into midterm elections. Keith did say that the early voting starts February 17th. It's right around the corner, about a month and a couple of days from now, guys. So you guys need to focus on what really matters, what is important, and what are your values. What congressman candidate values mirror your values? Who do we really want leading this district? Thank you for joining us tonight, guys. This was the Maverick Times podcast, episode number 70, with a congressional candidate, nominee for the Republican Party, Keith Barton. Thank you, guys. Till next time.